Welcome, everyone. You're in the right place to learn how to control your model madness with Collaboration for Revit. Your presenter this afternoon is Cesar Ruest of Autodesk. Cesar, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thanks, Jenna. Hi, everybody. Collaboration for Revit. Let's jump right into it. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, but make no mistake, happy to be here talking about three things about Collaboration for Revit. Three things that we're going to address means that everybody can play in the sandbox together nicely. The first one is just for those Revit users specifically. And this is where we're going to talk about how central file technology is leveraging the cloud for those Revit users out there, making it flexible and dynamic to go across firewalls without having to worry about somebody else's firewall to access a central file. The second part we're going to talk about is, how do you communicate and chat with people within the same team, within the same project. And in that case there, again, going across borders, and it doesn't matter which office you're in, but you're going to be able to chat with your teammates. And then the third piece is bringing everybody back into the sandbox, your project managers, people in charge of projects but don't want to use Revit, keep that taboo stuff off my computer. Letting those people who need to see those documents have access to the files for their design comments, for their design markups and reviewing, all for delivering a project right up to the contract documents and right into contract documents. So the first piece, we're going to talk about Revit, and this is where a lot of times lately what I found is some people in my calls are saying, what do you mean Revit and a central file? Like, I don't get it. Like one person, two people, three people working on one file at the same time. And what it turned out to be was many contractors that I've heard, actually some of them aren't familiar with the central file capabilities of Revit, but many architects and engineers actually know about that stuff. So it's like old news for some people, it's new news for some people, but bringing it all together, let's just go through it. You have Revit on your desktop. You have a central file that you're making today internally. Essentially what you're looking for is this ability to bring that central file, and you know that the cloud is out there, and you start trying to think about how can we do this. And some people try to use cloud storage systems like repositories where they just upload the Revit file up there and then somebody downloads it back down and they think that that's sharing the central file. Well, technically it's almost like going and mailing something and a letter comes into your mailbox and then you're going to mail that to somebody else. That's the equivalent of what they're talking about. What we're talking about is no longer will you have to do a full, if this circle is 100 megabytes, no longer do you have to do a full upload of 100 megabytes and then pull down a full 100 megabytes and then rinse and repeat. That is not Collaboration for Revit. Collaboration for Revit is going to be, hey, let me reload the latest and greatest nuggets of what my model is all about instead of me propagating the entire, heavy package. So it's not totally new as a concept, and this is what many firms have been doing when they put money and technology and time and people at the problem. So cloud sharing, this is one way that I know firms are trying to do it without buying the service of Collaboration for Revit. So make no mistake, there are dollars being spent here. And the dollars typically mean that they're buying software, or they're buying hardware. They're applying a Revit server software to it. They're spending money on VPN connections, which is actually the holy grail behind all this stuff. Some people actually buy additional hardware like accelerators and then institute an IT staff. Maybe they already have one, so they're already paying salaries out for IT people who just do IT in the larger firms. So they might pull all that stuff together, and then of course the project manager has a giant cup of faith to make sure that all of this is going to work and hope that the VPN connections stay good throughout the project delivery. That's what people were doing today or yesterday. And today, what we find is people are more willing to invest in a service at a lower entry cost, like Collaboration for Revit. So yes, there's $1 for the service, but you should know that Collaboration for Revit and the workings or the mechanics of it are already inside of Revit 2018. They are just waiting to be turned on. So in this case here, the licensing is per person, and the way that you find out who needs licenses of Revit, it's almost like a schoolyard pick. You know, who wants Revit and who's going to use Revit in a collaborative sense to say you're authoring, you're going to be creating Revit models. Then those people that put their hands up and they want to work on the same projects as other firms which are outside of their office location, that's the people that you buy the licenses for. The people that are saying, whoa, 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 wait about me, wait, what about me? And then that person is only, you know, looking at files and commenting or wishing to redline files. You're going to buy them a smaller, more cost-effective component, which is called M360 Team. So today we are talking about C4R, and that's basically these people up here and down here and across the other side. They get C4R. They are muscling Revit. They also have access to the BIM 360 Team cloud site. The people like me, I'm the project manager, and that was my picture that I was drawing on the front screen. I've got my beard there. As a project manager, I just want to see the files. I want to touch them as far as red line markup and comments, and that's it. And I want to do it sometimes from my phone, sometimes from my iPad when I'm on the plane, sitting in a coffee shop. All I need is this BIM 360 Team. Okay, that's the recipe that you need to look forward to, and not the stuff that's on the left-hand side. So what this saves, and I'm all for IT. You know, some of my best friends are IT people, but IT can help institute the rollout of Collaboration for Revit, not with their technology, but possibly through the administration of the licenses. So no more is IT seen like this, and you have your project managers jumping through the hoops. That is gone by the wayside. That's not the case anymore. IT will administer, or if you have IT and they're administering your Autodesk licenses, they can administer those licenses to the people that need them most and give them the right licenses for the right amount of time that they need it. Those are really good precedences for Autodesk technology as compared to using Revit for project managers. So one of the big things that we're going to see is when we're leveraging the cloud, how can we also use the cloud for that viewing piece that I'm highlighting? And again, this is where BIM 360 Team comes in, and only Team is allowing you to view those things with a very light Team license. So this is me with a little bit more hair. Usually my hairline kind of stops right about there, and I'll put my geek hat on here and just kind of tell you some of the inner workings of C4R. So we implement a delta caching system and a delta upload, and that basically means when you first start running C4R, the very, very first time that you collaborate in the cloud, remember I said 100 megabyte file? Well, when it first goes to the cloud, obviously it has to put the whole model there. So yes, the very, very first time it pushes 100 megabyte up. It pushes 100 megabytes up, and then it's in the cloud and it says, okay, Caesar wants to work on this file, so it pulls 100 megabytes down. Once one way, once another way, and it develops this local cache. So in a nutshell, the local cache actually gets built without you even knowing it, and it gets put into a hidden user profile file. It's typically, if you want to look into it, it's under your profile name, under all user, or under your username. It's under the app hidden file directory under local. You know, it's down there in the basement, but it's there. So that's the very first part. But the nice part about this delta cache is if you put a door into a wall, and you save to central, this is the only change that's saved up. And then I've got Jana, and she's my structural engineer, and she says, hey, Cesar, I just updated a column, a wide flange column on, grid line A1. So when she says save to central, I have a choice. I can reload the latest and only pull down what's the latest changes from Jana. So in this case here, this is where I'm saying this saves time and agony on our systems and our need to always, like in the past, always push the whole file up and pull file down. This saves all that trouble. So this saving is a savings in time. It is also a saving, and I no longer have to concern myself about versioning because it takes care of itself automatically. So these are safeguards, and they are pointing to a savings, a return on investment. The part about the communication, so this is part 2 of the discussion. So we think about Revit as, this is a mission-critical tool. There is really no great way to communicate inside of Revit. That's why we pound ourselves with emails and simple little questions, and we just get tons of them in a day. We've built into Collaboration for Revit the Communicator aspect, and Communicator allows people to have a palette, which is called Communicator, in Revit while the session's running. You can see your teammates signed in. And when I sign in, I'll show up here, and I'll have, you see a little green mark here. I'll have a little green indicator saying that I'm online right now. And I can do some nice direct chats with one-on-one to a person. I can also do a team chat, which means, hey guys, I've updated the grid. The grid is now, 12'2" on spacing, grid line to grid line. So that's a team kind of chat. And I can also do screen captures, which illustrate my, what I'm trying to say right here as far as the written information. So these are all good mechanisms to help reduce email. It helps keep the project teams moving forward. It is tracked historically because down here we have a mechanism to take these chats out as texts. Of course, it's a text file, so you're not going to get the screenshots, but you keep the history of who said what and when they said it. So those are all great things in Communicator, but, like your favorite cheesy commercial on TV, but we're not done there. Contextual awareness is fantastic because with Revit Server, you really never knew who was saving to central, and sometimes it felt like it was bottlenecking. And it sometimes felt like it was taking longer today to save to central than it did yesterday. And so Communicator is nice because you get to see the context of who is saving when and what they actually saved at that time. So this is a little subtle, but it's really worth saying. You can see that Tom is saving Model 1, but Emily is also part of the same project, and she has just finished saving Model 2. If I have Model 2 as a reference link in my model, I can take acknowledgement that she just saved, and I can say, I want to see what she changed, and reload the latest work sets. So this is fantastic. So the project lets me see multiple people getting saved or saving multiple files of different file type names as it pertains to the Revit environment only. So any Revit files that are saved gets showing up here. Okay. And lastly, for those people that feel disenfranchised because they never get the new cool stuff to play with, let's bring them back into the sandbox and connect the entire team together. And this is where this individual license of BIM 360 team can be purchased just for those users who are not on Collaboration for Revit. So buying a BIM 360 team license allows these things for those people. And some of the highlights of it include 2D, 3D markup capabilities. One of the huge differentiators, because I know that many of you are using some kind of PDF competitive software to do your design reviews, that's fine. But let me propose something to you that can increase your savings and have everything here. So, you know, I would propose, of course, obviously because I'm from Autodesk, that you run an Autodesk kind of shop with some of these design markup tools. The differentiator that we hold is we allow you to put up these file formats into Team and view them natively. So that means if you had this file format that you used to create, this file format is PDF because you wanted somebody to review it and mark it up, you no longer need to create a PDF file. You can put these native files up there and then they can review them. The design markup explicitly works on Revit and DWG files, the native files. So that markup overlays on top of it. It doesn't embed itself into these files. It's an overlay, and it's part of the team website. The native viewing that we have is for all of these files. You can comment, so I'm just going to put the letter C above this. You can put comments on the DOC and Excel files and have them natively viewed inside of Team as well. So this is a huge differentiator because you can do this all of this from an iPad or a tablet, smartphone, Android or iOS, and computer. So the tablet or the smartphone are apps, and they can also run online or offline. Very compelling. This little piece right here called Live Review is worth mentioning too. I'm on my computer. This is me right here on this computer. This Live Review allows me to grab a hyperlink, of which is this model that I'm viewing right now, and I could take this hyperlink and I'll email this to Jana, and Jana will say, okay, I'm sitting at the coffee shop, I've got my iPad, you want to show me what you're looking at on screen. So as I rotate this model, Jana's going to see the same rotation because her view is my view. We can use the chat window inside of this to chat, or we would have our telephones to use for audio purposes. But the Live Review is fantastic because it's a no charge kind of extension that you can send this link to anybody, even if they're not on Team, and they can check out your screen. So the geek in me is willing to tell you that in any format, because it's really running the very powerful Navisworks engine in the background that's been enhanced, but that's just the geek in me. You would never know it when you go on Team. And then you should know that we really focused on developing this for the tablets and iPhone first, and then we actually ported it over to be the web version for browsers of any computer, whether it's Mac or PC. Your tools will really reflect the same usage across all devices, which makes it very usable. And so in a nutshell, it's kind of like, it's almost like that shopping channel. So what's included? Central file. You get to work in the central file, the files in the cloud. You're always working on your remote on your desktops. You get, when you buy Collaboration for Revit, those licenses of Collaboration for Revit include a license of Team for that same user. The Communicator gets turned on inside of Revit, and you get to use it with the other people who are in that project with you who are also using Revit. The model management and versioning tools, that's a function of Team, and we will manage the versions for you out of the gate. And the scalable licensing. So this is where I was saying IT can really help out here, or whoever's administering your Autodesk licenses. You know, Jana comes into my project, I can allocate a license to her, and then she's done the project because she's moved on to something else or she's left the firm, Lord forbid. And in this case here, I can revoke that license and administer it to somebody else. So moral of the story, the license follows the user and not the machine. Right, so I can run my user license on any machine that I walk up to as far as Collaboration for Revit or Team. So there's a price to it, and it is much more affordable than running that other shenanigans with the VPN connection and the hardware servers. $800 a year for a single license, but the payoff can be, if it just saves you 10 minutes a week for the duration of a year, it'll pay for itself. And think of the times that you upload and download and move those files around. And if you wish to be a tighter office with your partners, to have tighter design integration, more closer to real time, this is the only way to do it. And this is the best way to do it. We take care of the backups and all that stuff. Of course, you can always back up your own information if you wanted to and save the central file to your own server at some point for backup. And there's another trick that I'm going to show you too. I'm happy to say this is no longer called Autodesk Drive. This is no longer beta. This is live, and I think it's only been live for about a week now. This is fantastic. So it's called BIM 360 Connected. I'm going to shorten that down, Connected Desktop. The spelling is not like that. It's called exactly what I said it was. Essentially, let me throw away all the marketing spin on this. This is like a virtual drive, a little bit on steroids because it also has an offline capability. But I just like it because it's a virtual drive, and I'm going to show you how you use it. But as a virtual drive, it shows up right beside your C drive on your Windows Explorer, and you can access it just like your K or L or M drive from your office. So it's fantastic, and it hooks into your BIM 360 team hubs. So enough of the blah blahs. Let's jump right into Revit, and we're doing pretty good on time. Just to let you guys know, I take a lot of Q&A at the end, and hopefully this will be somewhat of the best 45 minutes of your life because you're never getting it back. So let's make your time worthwhile. So at about 1:45, I'll stop for Q&A. You can type in your question at any point, and I'll try to answer that at the end if I haven't answered it throughout this presentation. So how do we know that we've got collaboration for Revit and we're using it? Well, right within Revit, you can see some differences if you've never seen this before. You see these little monikers here, a little cloud. You can see the path, BIM 360, May 2107. This one here, TT Insurance, C, temp drive, TT Insurance. This is telling you local file, cloud file. So this file are living in the cloud. Open, you'll also see we've got the hooks to go to BIM 360 team right there. So that's because you've installed and activated, or sorry, C4R is already installed, but now you've activated your license of C4R, and that's why you see this hook into BIM 360. So clicking on it would let you get into that BIM 360 cloud and open up the file. Let me step back to show you how to get the file there in the first place. So TT Insurance, let's pick on that for a second. So from C drive, I want to go to my Collaborate tab. This is not a central file, but it could be. It's up to you. So when we click on the Collaborate in the cloud for the very first time, this button goes away. Once it's in the cloud, this button will disappear. But now that it's not in the cloud yet, that's why it's showing up. So we're going to click on it. This is where we're preparing, just about to send it out to the cloud. Now, I'm going to call this, let's say this is my 80% DD for Jana. And I want to push this to the cloud. And you kind of ask, okay, so what is, like, where are these things? Like, these are projects sitting somewhere. Well, this is my cloud projects. So as an administrator, somebody that buys the licenses and you want to start rolling this out, and you say, Caesar, like, what's the first thing that I would do? You are going to create yourself your hub, and then you're going to create your projects that come out of that hub. So here's my hub. Picture this to be your company name. Each hub So each license of BIM 360 or Collaboration for Revit gives you a single hub. Each license gives you a single hub of 500 gigabytes. As a company, if you bought 4 licenses of BIM 360 Team or 4 licenses of Collaboration for Revit, you'll have 4 times 500 gigabytes, so effectively 2 terabytes of storage at your capacity, because it can pool together for a corporate hub. From this hub, you create your projects. So the administrator will do this. And this was part of a question that I know that Jana had asked me to address, saying, how do BIM managers have the ability to manage all projects on C4R? This is it. So as the administrator, you're Superman or Wonder Woman, depending on, what's your favorite superhero, or pick your favorite something, you're that godlike person. You, as the administrator, control these projects. And then if I have Jana, who's my project manager of May 2107 as the administrator, I'd make her the project manager, and Jana would only manage this project. So for example, when I go into May 2107, Jana would be here. She would show up as one of my members, and then she would be able to invite people to this project. But she wouldn't see the other projects that I created as administrator. So those are the steps that you take to create the projects from your hub, and then you administer them to other users. So we created this project along with these other ones, and that's the only reason why when I come here and I say, I want to put this file up into the May 2107 project and initiate. So this is not a central file, so it converts it to a central file by creating default work sets. You will see that at the top of my screen here, if I can move this out of the way, can't move it. Behind this, it's going to change my file name over to this new file name. So it will abandon my local file and my local file name, because when it's done uploading it to the cloud, it automatically comes back to say, hey, Cesar wants to start working on this. I'm going to save him a locally cached version of that central file, which is the local file. So many of you, if you have done this today with central files in your office, you know that you manually have to create your own local file. Today, we do it transparently for you. So we're done. And this lives in the cloud now because you've got your central Save to Central icon lit up, and that button that was here is gone. Now, there's a few things that you're going to become more familiar with. There are parts of Revit maybe that you've never touched called publishing. And publishing, after the first Save to Central, the first Save to Central automatically puts a default model into Team because there was no placeholder there at all. So when I come into 2107, somewhere within here, there it is right there, it puts a default published view into Team. But you should all know that really we hold a Collaboration for Revit safety. It's its own site as a web server. It's its own site. And that means the central files will never live in Team. These are only published views of the central file living in Team for a few reasons, but you should know that. They live in 2 separate areas altogether. My central files can never be damaged by just people using Team. But the real power comes to you guys now within Revit. If this is a publish capability, you would create a published sheet set name. So we created this new one called Sheet Plus. Let me create a brand new one. Let's say for Jana. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to tell that I want to use this one. And in this publish set, I only want to send Jana, let's send her the 3D model, the first, second floor, and what else? You can send some other views too, but let's say we just want to send these 3 things to be published. In architects, we want to send 20% DD and let somebody run with it for a week. So we only want to send them those sheets which are completed. This is the mechanism to do that. So it gives you a chance to create a discrete set of views, and from those discrete sets of views, they will be published onto the team site. So clicking Save to Central just saves those sheet sets with the central file, but it did not publish it yet. So for example, if I went onto team right now, so that's just saving to central, and we would think, oh, okay, so if I go into team right now, and if I took a look at Jana's file, I would only see those 3 views, and that's incorrect. The only time that you're publishing actions that could take place is through the Manage Cloud Models. So this is button number 2. So I showed you Publish button. I showed you this one here a second ago, Publish. I'm on this button right now, Manage Cloud Models. This is the publishing area. So you would come to here, and I'll zoom into so you can see this. So look at these files here. This Arch 20% DD, you can see it's got a green and it says latest version published. Whereas this one, like I told you, those 3 sheets that I wanted to send out are not specifically sent out. So I would tell the system, okay, take the Collaboration for Revit model and publish this to team. And it gives you a little bit of education, and you say, got it, and you publish. And now you can close that window because it's going to go ahead and publish this to team. Now, if all of these files, like at the end of one day, as the administrator of this project, if you had all of these files, you can skip the steps of publishing every single one at a time, and you just come up here and you say publish all. That's what this button is for. And while I'm in here, this has been a recurring question too. I've had people say, hey, Caesar, I've got a file in team. I keep deleting it off of team, even though it says RVT. I keep, coming to this drop down and say delete. It keeps coming back, like what's going on? And I come into Revit and I keep seeing the file showing up in Revit. What's going on? Well, you're not really deleting it. The only way to delete the model off the central file server is right here. So you're coming into this Manage Models again, and you're saying delete. And you just click it, and it's going to be gone from the central, from the Collaboration for Revit servers. And you can also see we have versioning here too. So we'll let you view as many versions as you want. By default, it's 10. You can shorten that down to 5. Like you do in Revit, so that's the same as Revit. Rename the file if needed right here too. And you've got the log of who did what when. So within that section right there, let me finish off Revit with the Communicator. And here, this is where you're going to find all of your teammates. In this project right now, it's just me. I feel alone, like me and Mark in this project. But if I go to all projects, this is where you're going to find all of your projects that you're working in Collaboration for Revit. And when you click on a project, you'll see your teammates in that project. And if you dig further into it, you'll see the past, excuse me, you'll see the past comments put into there. So in this case here, we had a little bit of a conversation. What about removing? And then Joe said, do you have the latest structural model? All date stamped and historical in nature. And you can see right down here, I was having a little bit of fun with this one door. And this one question that I had the other day was, is this a prison cell? Because if you look at all of my, it looks like I've got strapping coming down in front of my windows here, making it look like a prison of sorts. So I did that with my screen capture tools, just by clicking, capturing, and then questioning. What the? That's Communicator. And then you'll notice right here under the active model, when I sync to central, and I say OK, and I look at Communicator, you're going to see it's syncing right now, and it's got the little lights flashing here. So this helps everybody know, oh, okay, Caesar's syncing to central. I'm going to hold off on that right for a second. Okay, so this was part 1 and part 2 of that PowerPoint. Let's fast forward a little bit now into part 3, and let's get into team. So here's that May 2107 site. List view, it's all listed out. Thumbnail view, now we get thumbnails. You can see all of the different file formats, DWG, the versioning here. I've also got links. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to show you too, is how do you start linking things inside of Revit? This is really important. First off, that virtual drive that I was talking to you about, you come here in Team, and this is how you get it. From your icon of your user profile, look way down here. It's called Desktop Connector for BIM 360. Go and get it. So when you click it, it'll run you through the download process of getting it, install it. It looks like this when it's done. So for example, here under this PC, there's my C drive, there's BIM 360 Team. You'll see, like I said, it's a virtual drive. So when you double click it, it says, hey, Caesar, you've got these hubs. Double click it. Let's go into the skyscraper hub. Hey, you've got access to all of these projects. There's May 2107. Double click it. And here we go. All of these files you see on this web browser behind me are all right here. And you can drag and drop from and to in through this virtual connector. This is the mechanism to which you use Revit and link DWGs or link non-essential Revit files, like detail files and stuff like that. So when you do insert Revit link or insert CAD link, I didn't want to do the Revit. So there's my cloud. That's not the big deal. I wanted to go to CAD. So Revit link, or sorry, CAD link, you're going to browse to my computer, and there's your BIM 360 virtual drive. You just double click right into it, and you go all the way through it. When it comes down to what it does in the end, you'll see, I'll open this one here. This will show you the cloud pathing that takes place. So this was not in, there was, before last week, there was no good way to link DWGs into collaboration for Revit sessions. There was no good way to do it other than linking from local servers. But now, look at what's going on here. This is a CAD link, a circle and a square. Very complicated, I know. Thank you. Manage links will expose a few things here. So under CAD formats, you'll see my circle in DWG. Look at this. Path type cloud. That's exactly what you want. You don't want it pointing back to your user profile name because that's what it used to do. Under Revit links, I did the same thing. I linked a Revit file. This was a non-essential kind of Revit file. This is more of a detail file. So I linked that in. So that means that when I share this entire file with anybody and Jana opens it up on her computer, the links will be maintained. It's almost like a little song there from Disney or something like that. So anyways, that's the best thing since sliced bread today, that desktop connector. Let's go back to our program now and show you BIM 360 Team. So I'm going to show you a more complete site that has some things that I really like to highlight. Oh yeah, plus, I'm going to show it to you all from the power of my phone. So let me bring up my phone here for a second. So here we go. I love showing the phone now. I'm going to dig into the hospital Revit 2016 project in the background. But while I do that, you're going to see me go on my phone here. And there's my hospital 2016 right here. And I click on that. I'm going to access those files. See the folder structures? Exact same, of course. It's the cloud. And if my computer and phone are reaching to the same cloud, I should see the same files. There's the images. See them all? And I want to go and show you some information. Oh, look, there's a Word document. You can bring that up on your phone. There's an Excel spreadsheet. Half the battles I get with people are, hey, Caesar, I just want something that I can see and view from my phone. So the phone is the differentiating tool. The native viewing capabilities is a value add. And you can still comment on these documents. You can redline and markup on the Revit and DWGs, but you can still comment. You can't redline markup the docs and Excel files, but at least you can comment. So I want to show you the redline markup. So let me go down here to this one file. So I'm going to bring your attention to this one here. So this file is called November Hospital RVT. And on my phone, there it is right there. You can check it out just to make sure. Like, it shows you an information bubble. You can see it's on version 4. It's about 25 meg. The last time it was updated, blah, 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 blah. And close that off and just open that sucker. And let's do the same thing on our computer. Like, watch the comparisons. A lot of similarities, almost practically, I can't say identical because the physical sizes are limiting to the phone versus my computer, but there's your tools, here's your tools. Look at the comment bubbles, look at the comment bubbles. They're all synchronized and accessible. So let's click on, this is on a different version too. So this is on run. We clicked on 32. This is a security door, or is this a security door is the question that I raised. So right from your phone, you can say, yep, dangerous stuff. Reply. And you can also do other things too. When you're doing the reply, you could actually say at, and then say Caesar. The replies themselves are fundamental to, so that should be synchronized there. I just want to go back into this and see if it shows up with my reply. So let's refresh this. So with browsers, you know that you do have to refresh things. Just because your browser's sitting there open, if it hasn't refreshed, it's not going to change or find new data automatically. You have to click on refresh. So as long as the internet gods kind of work with me here, I'll be fine. So coming back to my phone, let's zoom in out of this and let's see something else. So we've got our markup tools down here. So let's mark up. And you see text, freehand, color. Zoom in. And change corner. That's supposed to say corner, not corper. And post. Sounds good to me. So it's going to track it through these comment bubbles. And it's a comment history that you have access to and who said what. Fantastic design tool here. Coming back to my screen over here, let's see what we've got going. So if we go to the overview, this is where it's going to really let us see these comments all the way through. So we've got these 4 sheets that we're managing. And out of these 4 sheets, I really want to take note of a few things. These are sheets being versioned. So we're up to 4 versions on this Revit file. We're looking currently at the latest version. We have the opportunity to compare versions. And in this case here, we have our comment thread. So on version 4, we had 16 comments. And you can see the multiple threading taking place here when I said reply, and I say at Joe. There's Joe. He will get an email now with this question, please review. And he'll get that email, but it'll push him back to this site to come and review it. Now, when I scroll down further, because I said we're on version 4, you'll see that I come up to version 3 here in a second. There's version 3. So from this point forward, all of these comments existed on version 3 of this Revit file. And this is a very practical workflow, especially with this example right here. Within this example, I clicked on it. It's going to go and find this markup and bring it to me and only show me that thread right here in this comment trail. So this is I know that this is the workflow from architects to engineers and so on, designers down to drafters. This is the workflow, and it's a shame that I'm playing in the sandbox by myself, because I'm the architect, I'm the project manager, I'm the Revit user, I'm also the summer student. And that's why I got all these things, like add the wall and door, and this guy says, I approve this move, and then the Revit user says, okay, and then he says to the summer student, hey, Merck, let me know when this is done. And Merck says, okay, it's cool to go, Caesar. So this is me in the sandbox. It's a really lonely life I lead. But if we wanted to see the result of this change, this is where this compare tool comes to play. So this will be the last minute I spend here, and then get your questions ready, and we'll do our Q&A in another minute. But this compare tool, you know, every time I see this, it is like the best thing since sliced bread. So these are active buttons on the right-hand panel. You can see things in color. The buttons illuminate or turn off the color at an object level. Okay, follow those words. At an object level of Revit objects, these are Revit objects, not PDF, not AutoCAD. At a Revit level, we do object recognition of things added, removed, or modified. And from this recipe, you can choose the objects here, or you can choose the objects on the screen to tell you the information of the change between 3 and version 4. And the best thing since sliced bread is not necessarily that. It's this modified piece that I found very compelling. I want to see things that are modified, which are, you know, a property information has been added or changed, or it's been tweaked a bit, but visually you cannot tell. So the modification, like this room, exam room 2-3, for example, you can see anything that's in blue is the highlighted, this is what's new. And if you change and go back to version 3, saying, well, in version 4, if the area increased by 36 square feet, how big was it in version 3? You just choose that button, and it shows you version 3. So it's a nice, it is definitely a fantastic use of Revit technology embedded within Team to do a program review during design. And of course, you've got all your bells and whistles of your markup tools and stuff like that. So I don't want to waste your time on the markup tools, because that's pretty essential stuff. The commenting things, like this will be my last thing actually that I talk about. The commenting, to get these little bubbles here, just like I showed you on my phone, that's this little comment tool right here. So if I wanted to put a comment maybe on this corner of the building, I would just drop this comment at a point with my crosshairs right there, and then this is how I'm going to start to comment. Blah, blah, blah. And then post. So let's stop there, and I'm going to pause. Maybe we can talk about some more things afterwards or during the Q&A. So Jana, if you're still there, maybe we can see if there's any questions.
Sure. One moment while I end today's recording.